Hey, my name is ShawNshawN. I sell art on ShawNshawN.co and specials on eBay. Today we're going to review Infidel. So Infidel is a film by Cyrus Novareste. I think he's Iranian. He's director and writer, so that's kind of nice. It's tightly knit. Time is 1 hour 48 minutes, so pretty good on time. The actors are Jim Caviezel as Doug Rollins, who's this religious blogger who becomes a kidnap victim. Claudia Carvan is Liz Rollins, is his wife. Hal Oznan is Ramzi, who is the lead kidnapper from Hezbollah. Ali Kazam is Javid, who's Doug's partner. So Doug's going to this party for his Iranian Muslim friend, Javid. They go there, it's kind of fun. They play like traditional Iranians, they play some rock and roll. Father's not really happy about the rock and roll. He's more conservative Muslim, but he's living in America, so he kind of has to have a front. And then his daughter's kind of dating this guy, and she goes out with him, and then the wife calls, I haven't seen my daughter, He's like, oh, just chill. They'll probably come back late at the night. They're just partying a little bit. She calls back next day, my daughter's not here. So she's like, oh my God. So this Christian wife, Liz Rollins, calls the police and is like, hey, we need to get there, please show up. And the police find out this secret room in the house. They don't really have a search warrant, but they find this secret room, and inside the room is all this Hezbollah stuff, Iranian flag. So the guy's obviously some kind of operative for some foreign government, and his cover's completely blown. And next thing you know, Doug is invited to Cairo under kind of mysterious circumstances, but he's like, okay, I'll go for a talk between comparing Islam versus Christianity. He's like a Christian blogger, and it's going pretty well in the interview. And then they kind of ask a little bit hard-edged questions, and he responds like, no, Jesus is actually God. And so it's completely like throws the conversation. Instead of unifying, he's like completely despair, like, I believe in God, you believe in something else. It's like, but I mean, if he's a Christian blogger, why would he go to Cairo? His wife told him not to go, so kind of a little bit naive in the sense. So he goes back to his hotel, some strange men show up and kidnap him. And then his wife, has given him a secret hard drive, so if he ever gets access to a computer, he can actually speak to her, and so he's able to send a secret message once. So she kind of has an idea, and she works at the State Department. She goes to her boss, and her boss is like, no, we gotta let this chill. You gotta, you're not suspended, but you're stay at home for a couple of weeks while we work on this case. You're not to be involved. So she doesn't know where this is going, so she flies to Iran. She figures, I'm gonna get him out somehow, and that's kind of the crux of the story setup. So there's also this little side story which I really like in the story of the wife, because she's married to this Christian blogger. So at one point she was very Christian, but because she has this car accident in the past and she loses her baby, she just becomes agnostic or atheist, right? So it really kind of comes in the crux when she goes to Iran. She meets up with these local Christians by happenstance, and they're kind of help her. It's like, what do you think of God? Or something with her Christian reality. She's like, well, I'm tired, I want to go home. She doesn't want to say that she doesn't believe in God anymore, right? So it's kind of like this really quandary between people that are really inspired by her husband and his Christian blog in Iran, and they kind of have these secret churches underground. So it's a real threat to the power of Iranian power, which is this Muslim supposedly conservative, and they're tolerant of religions, but they want Muslims to be the overarching religion and no one to convert from Islam to another religion. So that's kind of the threat for them. They don't want to lose any parishioners. It's okay if you're already Christian, but you're not going to be seen. So it has this nice backstory on religion. Also have the backstory to the kidnapper. He was once, I think, British, and he was harassed as a kid by neo-Nazis. So then he went to the Middle East, and he felt more at home there, and he joins Hezbollah. So he completely switches sides from British to Hezbollah, right? So it's really interesting, this dynamic between how people as they immigrate, how they're seen abroad, if they do well off, like this guy's Christian, he does well and kind of forms his own company with this guy, but this other guy turns out to betray him. So it's very interesting how people fit in with the different religious societies, or Christian in a Christian society, Christians under Muslim society, Muslim in a very open, liberal Western society. So you have this really juxtaposition of religions, so that's kind of interesting that they show this off. I think they did a pretty good job of the conservative nature of Islam. I don't think they're so forthright, but if someone went on TV in Cairo and they debated religion and it was Christian and he's kind of challenging them which God is the real God, Muhammad or Jesus, then that would be highly controversial, right? So I could see this happening and someone being a kidnap victim after this. I don't think that's painting the Middle East in such a bad light. It wouldn't necessarily be everyone in society believes that. It's kind of like the extreme heart-wringers in Iran, Saudi Arabia are kind of behind these kind of splinter groups. There are some conservatives within those societies, but in general, people are moderate. But You know, they do have this kind of overarching belief that the Muslim belief is superior probably to the Christian belief, and that the Christians are a really small minority in these countries now. They used to be kind of maybe 30%, now they've probably dwindled over time to 5-10% that they just keep emigrating out for better opportunities in Christian lands. I also like the idea of this Christian being baited into the conversation that, you know, leads up to his kidnapping, because you could see someone that was overzealous Christian or overzealous Muslim, whatever, and they go to the opposite side, they're going to have this issue where someone will challenge them on their beliefs. It's like, no, I believe in, you know, all the way, my particular God is the right God, right? Because this is how religious people are. If they're Muslim or Christian or Jew, whatever, if they're conservative, they're just going to be like, thy God is the right God. You are not believing the wrong God. I'm an atheist, so I just like do whatever. You guys are all smoking crack. But yeah, I kind of get that, and I think it's possible some American Christian would be super naive and go to Cairo. Even though the wife warns against it, the wife is a little more knowledgeable of the world. I think because she stepped out of the religion, so she's more agnostic, but she realizes the danger of going to Cairo, even though it's more moderate than, say, going to Lebanon or obviously Iran. That would be a little wild. It's also interesting too, once the wife gets on the ground in Iran, there's all these people that kind of present themselves to her, first reporters, and then this other Christian group, and she doesn't know, should I trust these or not? Who are they? Or are they actually, you know, someone they're not pretending to be? Some are different from different groups. So it's really interesting is that layer kind of unwinds through the film as you kind of uncover people that have secret aliases, people who don't have secret aliases, what are their motives for helping her or not helping her. Also the imam and how he's kind of trying to play up her husband as a spy, and then giving them the out basically, just admit you're a spy and you can go home. And then he's like, no, I'm not a spy. Like, dude, I'd be like, I'm a spy, man, get me the fuck out of here. Like, I don't care, but I'm atheist, so for me it's like whatever. I would say there's Allah and whatever. Because it doesn't mean anything to an atheist, right? You just know it's just hokey pokey, so to say. But a true believer would be like, no, my God is the right God, Jesus is Lord, or Allah is God, or whatever, you know? So these people are just kind of like really set in their ways, which is fine. I mean, it helps them get through life and gives them hope as they approach death. So I kind of get that understanding, and it gives them sometimes a framework for principles to live by, which I'm like, you don't have any principles being, you know, why do you need religion to give you principles? I mean, but the interesting thing is if you debate a lot of principles, even if you're an atheist in a Christian society, probably a lot of your Christians are actually very similar to the Christian basis in the Bible. Or if you're agnostic atheist in a Muslim country, it would be the same thing. A lot of your principles are still kind of coincide with that Muslim background. So even if you're out of the religion, you're kind of still on. But yeah, I can see that. Yeah, and it just has this nice intertwining story of who's who, the woman walking the cracks between different government agencies, and also the husband, you know, does he want to give himself up as a spy? And so it has a lot of this, like, what should you do? What's your morality in this? I don't think it's very lighthearted because they are going to show a little bit of the torture, not too much, but just enough to kind of make it feel real. So, I mean, if you're trying to get relaxed after COVID, I don't know if this is a relaxing film per se, but it'll definitely get your mind out of COVID. I think you'll be like, oh yeah, there's terrorism in the world. There's kidnapping in the world. But I don't know if that's a relaxing film if you're in COVID and you want a kind of a comedy maybe. So I don't know if it's going to have a great box office. It might have a great box office in the sense there's only reruns out right now. So there's only like 2 films out, Tenet and this film, Infidel. So probably Infidel will do better than it would have done because it probably would have came out some odd weekend, probably in January, February, but because of, you know, the whole film schedule for 2020 screwed up because of COVID, and they were shut down 3 months, and all the films got delayed, and then the releases got delayed, and all the major box office that were coming out, they were afraid to release, so some of them have gone straight to Disney, like Mulan, and Mulan had its own disaster. But yeah, it's really interesting. So these kind of minor films are rolling out in these major weekends. I would say September is probably a major weekend. It's right after Labor Day. It's right before people go to school. Some people are in school, but you know, it's still prime target for films. So it's odd to have this kind of independent film this weekend. But yeah, I think I would recommend it. I don't think it's going to be relaxing, but it is kind of a great morality tale. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you in the next film review. Thanks for watching, guys.